Hello again, everyone. I have a message from a GoFundMe contribution. So here we go. Dear Ollie, I gave you a small donation on GoFundMe since I was laid off from my job in July. I am a single woman living alone. We're both close in age, 40s, and I feel like you could have been my brother. I was an only child born to a narc mom and enabler father, but there were problems with him too. I was abused and there was nobody to witness anything. My hometown is Seattle, Washington. In the 1970s, my childhood was the era of that serial killer, Ted Bundy. There were missing teens and children in the Northwest. My narc mom would constantly chase me around the house and beat me. She frightened me by saying that if I ever told anyone that I would be found in the blackberry bushes, just like the remains of these victims. The day came when I realized my narc mom felt no human emotion when she was abusing me, with a wild look in her eyes like she was enjoying it. Well, enjoyment is a human emotion, but it's a bad human emotion when you enjoy somebody's fear. Since my parents wanted to improve themselves financially, they invested in buying rental properties. My mom never worked a real career, but all she could think about was money. Then my mother bought a new modern luxury house with great views, walking distance to the beach. You know, it's funny you bring up the rental properties. Yes, it's a good way to make money, but it's also what do they call somebody who owns rental properties? A landlord. And what does the landlord get to do? They get to lord over whoever's living in their property. It's another way of gaining control. There are so many landlords that fall into this narcissism category because A, it's about money, and we know narcissists love to make money, but B, it's another form of control. With my parents' house down the shore, which they rent out half of it, my mother is constantly up the renters' asses. Okay, telling them what to do, when they can do it, where they could do it, complaining about the air conditioning they're using. She was complaining that they're up there making toast one day. There were so many jokes about my mother and the renters because she wanted to be able to tell them when and where they could eat, what they could eat, and when. Why do they need air conditioning? And I finally had to turn to her. We're on the beach, and she was making this issue of, well, they're going to come in and they want to use air conditioning. Like, oh my God. You mean people would actually want to pay to go somewhere on their vacation and turn on air conditioning? What a bunch of fucking dicks. What douchebags. Who would want air conditioning at a shore resort when they're paying to be there? But that's the mentality of the narcissist, and that's why a lot of them like to be landlords, because it's that type of control over strangers. Not only do they get to take their money, they try to go up there and bully them and tell them what the hell to do. So that's a very good thing you mentioned about the rental properties, because narcissists love to own rental properties because it's another form of control, and they can control perfect strangers and have them pay them to do it. It really is something that I haven't really talked about much. I moved into this house when I was 10 years old. My parents could hardly afford this big luxury house, but they were so concerned about appearances. My narc mom was cheap, and there was no heat in the winter in the house, much like my house, because my mother was cheap. Cheap, 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 cheap. As long as there wasn't as long as there wasn't ice on the floor. There was ice on the windows, but not on the floor. You were fine. Now there was more emotional and verbal abuse towards me because plus the physical abuse. I was treated like the live-in maid and expected to perform in school like a robot with perfect grades. I became a good actress and learned how to pretend like I was happy with no major issues. Since the holiday season is coming, I wanted to share a true story that I like to call I'm Dreaming of a Narc Christmas. My mom gave me a lecture saying that I should not expect to receive any Christmas presents that year since everything went to buy the house. I was a big girl and should simply be grateful for living in this house. Yeah, that's what a kid understands. Just be grateful for that, because children understand at 10 years old, how mortgages work, how bills work, how, that's what you do. So you tell the kid, yeah, that is your present. I got a lot of that growing up, you know. Well, that is your present. That is your present. That is your present. Like necessities, you know, anything that had to be bought. Like if I outgrew my shoes or outgrew my clothes and I needed something different, so that would become my present. But like I said, like I said in an earlier video about my weight loss, like, you know, the reason why I always wore clothes so much bigger, because that's what my mother started to do to avoid it. She'd just buy cheap clothes on clearance that she also got a discount on. Okay, so she had to buy them fewer and fewer times to replace them. So I started like wearing basically adult sizes, I think at like 10 or 11 years old, even though I was a tiny kid. And being that I'm a full grown adult now at 5'8" and 138 pounds, and I am basically still fit into children's extra large or a men's small. Try to imagine being purchased clothes, okay, that could fit my father, who was 6'2". But this is what they do. They will screw you over to save money, and then they will combine those gifts on you and try to make you understand adult things like, oh, we live in this big house, you should be happy with that. Then she continues saying how they could hardly pay the bills. I felt sad, tried to act brave, but then I felt a strong wave of fear. Oh my God. My mother used to do that. It was always, we were going to lose the house. Everything was going to lose the house, going to lose the house, going to lose the house. Meanwhile, they could have burned money in the goddamn fireplace to heat it and still been goddamn loaded. That's how, but they'll always make you think they're living outside their means, or you're about to lose the house. And it's usually because of you, something you did or something you need. Oh my God, I'll be the laughingstock of the neighborhood and I'm the new kid on the block. I figured out a plan that I would pass off a few gently used items as pretend Christmas gifts from my parents. I thought to myself that these neighborhood girls have not been inside my bedroom, and I was so proud of myself once again for outsmarting my narc parents. I found a gently used sweater, a perfume bottle unopened, and a book. I put them in a drawer to hide until after Christmas. Do you believe that my narc mom decided to have a big fancy Christmas party for the neighbors that year to show off their house? My parents told me they could not afford to buy Christmas presents. However, they could afford to buy a 10-foot tall Christmas tree for the living room and pro catering for their big holiday party. Of course, with all the polished silver, punch bowl, crystal. And that's another thing. My mother was always like, Christmas is going to be, we're cutting back. Yet they always put a giant freaking Christmas tree right in the front room in this giant sunroom with all these windows to show off for the whole neighborhood. You know, it was all about image and show. But they had the money. I'm guessing your parents had the money too. Okay, but they wanted to screw you over but maintain their big shot image with their friends. My narc mom's family always had problems, and soon a younger male cousin moved into our house. Really? So if they have no money, how's the narc cousin? How's the cousin? How are they affording to have the cousin live there? He was later legally adopted, kept his own name, and it's complicated. This narc cousin also verbally and physically abused me. His bedroom was downstairs in the storage room, having only a mattress on a concrete floor and an old dresser and clothing from the Goodwill store. The golden child narc cousin adored my parents, although they were not very good to him. A family dog would have been treated better than him. He later joined the military, since it's the only career that I think an abuser like him can handle. I was a good girl, good student type growing up. I actually had an opportunity scholarship to attend a private girls' school of my choice. However, my narc mom hid the acceptance letter, and I never knew that I was accepted to the school. My wife's parents did the same thing. She got scholarships to everywhere, and I'm sorry, not scholarships. She could have went to any school in New York City because she was so smart and they wanted to skip her ahead 2 grades. But her parents forced her to go to John Dewey High School in the freaking ghetto of Coney Island with all these friggin' animals, okay, just because. Couldn't give a good reason why. Okay, no, we want you here, we want you close, that's dangerous. No, dangerous was staying in Coney Island, not going to, the Academy of the Sciences in Manhattan or any high school of her choice. They made sure they put her in some ghetto school. It came out years later during a Thanksgiving fight. It's funny how my mom enjoyed slandering me and had her bad with how bad her daughter was, etc. And there was nothing on me. I was an honor student with no drug, alcohol problems, teen pregnancy, criminal background, etc. I was expected to be their maid and attend classes. I was never loved or wanted, and there were threats of violence and verbal threats. And my mother would always do that publicly, telling how much problems I was, what a bad kid I was. And even my family would say, he's never been a problem. He was like the best kid we ever saw. I didn't do well in school because I was horribly depressed and suicidal. Everybody was 2 years older than me. But yet, when I were out in public, my mother would play this victim of what a problem child I am, and wow, I'm so awful and disrespectful and just violent and angry. And so I understand that as well. After my high school graduation, my parents decided that they wanted to retire and move to Arizona. There were no college plans for me at all, and it was all about them, and they built another big luxury house in Arizona. I begged them to let me stay in my home state, but they would not help me get set up with a place or college. So I was just taken in a car across state lines reluctantly, since I really owned nothing at this point. Soon I felt trapped in their new Arizona house and seriously depressed. The fighting became worse. My narc mom believed that buying a new luxury house would make her happy, but of course not. My narc mom stole my paychecks from my fast food job, which my mother did as well. It's all about them. It's all about controlling everybody. It's about that image, about that big house. I mean, my parents got 2 huge houses, but this is what they're about. And then they'll take your money that you work hard for as a child, as a teenager, as a teenager growing up. They'll take your money. So money is almost valueless to you. Hard work becomes almost valueless to you because you get nothing out of it. You're working basically for nothing. I did not want to live with my abusers forever, and I had a serious suicide attempt where I almost died. I ended up in the hospital and overheard the nurses talking about me. Apparently, the combination of pills that I had taken almost stopped my heart during the night, and it was very close. A neighbor father found me lying on the bathroom floor, blacked out, and phoned 911. Another time in their home, my narc mom tried to call the police and wanted to lie, saying that her daughter was abusing her. What the fuck? Yeah, my father did that once. Well, actually, they used to threaten. My father actually called once and tried to say I was some kind of out-of-control monster. But the cops knew me around, and they knew that wasn't true, and they kind of just rolled their eyes at him. They always love to get the authorities involved. It was the other way around. I was scared, and it was one of the worst moments in my life. Both my parents had a crazy look in their eyes, like a scene out of a horror movie with possessed people. I grabbed my purse and started walking backwards, in slow motion towards the door. I was praying to make it safely to the front door before the police came over. I was later walking in the evening in circles in a public park. The question was, could I accuse an innocent person of a crime that they did not commit? And the answer was no. Later, I ran away to a women's shelter in the town. I went through government programs and got a low-income apartment and job training. I survived in my 20s and became an older college student around 30 years old and earned a BA degree. After college, I moved to another city about 2.5 hours drive from my parents' house. I bought a small fixer-upper house 5 years ago and I live alone. If I had known how evil both my narc mom and cousin were, I would have pushed harder to move far away out of the state to a new life. My father recently died and I'm being harassed and bullied by my narc mom and cousin. They are both evil and think that the cousin is controlling my narc mom. My narc mom has done crazy things like trying to impersonate me and steal my cell phone statements. Well, my father likes to impersonate me all the time, obviously by signing my name on it. on a mortgage agreement. My mother took a credit card of mine and rang it up under the guise of, well, I'm just trying to build your credit. No, bitch, you're just spending my on my credit card that I got. Okay, so then when I go to use it, it's freaking maxed out. That was when I went Christmas shopping. The one after I just got this card, I go to use it, and the friggin' card is maxed out, and my mother did it. And she's like, oh, I was just trying to build your credit. I'm like, you got it, your own credit card. What are you using mine for? And she didn't need it. She just did it to fuck me over. Didn't tell me and put the card back in my wallet. She calls people and pretends to be me to snoop on me. She also tries to impersonate me at the bank and gets a hold of my bank statement. She told me that she was laughing at me at the bank with the bank teller, saying how very little money that her daughter makes and how I was such a loser. Well, if the bank teller's if she's talking to the bank teller about this and knows your mother's not you, then you should go to the bank manager and be like, what the fuck? And sue the goddamn bank. If the bank teller's laughing about, I can't believe that the bank would knowingly do that. The narc cousin puts ideas into this senile old woman's head. She's not senile. Why would you call her senile? If she's smart enough to impersonate you, steal your phone records, impersonate you at the bank, okay, she's not senile. That's the last thing she is. She's a manipulative old cunt. My narc mom was screaming into the phone saying how the cousin had an idea with renting a moving van and a storage space. They want to come over to my house when I'm not home and clean out my house items and lock them away in storage unit because they can. My narc mom gave me a weird answer saying that I deserve this as sort of a punishment for being bad while growing up. You need to record all your conversations with this woman. If you get this on audio, okay, you could have her arrested for harassment. This is harassment, and this is conspiracy to commit theft with her and your cousin. You should also call adult services on her because she's obviously irrational. It's like the cousin wants to get rid of me permanently if he could. He has always been jealous of me and wishes that he could just be their son, but I am 5 years older than him. Frankly, I have no love for my enabler father who never protected me at all. He would gaslight me by saying, how come I provoked my mom? Well, not. I believe that the narc cousin may fight me over the will and try to contest the will. I do need financial help. I've always been poor for all my adult life. I am unemployed right now and single. I feel as if I have been held back in career and dating issues. I'm sure you have because you have no confidence because of your childhood. I admit I did not earn the most commercial BA degree on the planet, but I earned it fair and square through financial aid and working at part-time jobs. Why would you minimize earning a degree at all? See, you're already making a huge mistake by minimizing your accomplishment. You put yourself through college when you didn't have to. Your parents could have obviously have paid for it easily. But yeah, you went out at a later age, worked your way through school, earned a degree, and now you're minimizing it? Why? Because that's what the narc will make you do. They'll make you minimize your own accomplishments. And I think that's probably the greatest issue in your life is that you minimize yourself due to your narcissistic abuse and due to your mother stealing everything from you. Probably in the back of your head, figure, well, I don't want to get too far ahead because this bitch is going to steal it from me anyway. I would like to go back to school, and I believe that this inheritance money would help me turn my life around, rather like a karmic justice. Don't count on that money. I'm surprised that I'd be shocked if you're still in the will, to be honest with you. Because remember, the narc's last fuck you to you is always going to be cutting you out of the will. It just is. So I don't see, with what you're telling me, how your mother would keep you in this will. Okay? Not because of anything you've done wrong. In her mind, because you're not kissing her ass, the will, cutting you out of the will, is always the narcissist's final fuck you to them. Fuck you to you. Don't get me wrong. I would do anything to have good parents and live in the small house. I felt as if I was abused and abandoned and had to learn to grow up very quickly. And that's another thing about us. We're adults at a very young age. We have to be in order to survive. We're not allowed to be children. I want to turn my life around in every way. Some days I wonder how much longer can this narc mom live. She is now almost 83 years old and father died at 87 years old. Narcissist youth, she's at that golden death age of narcissists. They usually die somewhere between 83 and 87. So she's gonna be kicking the bucket soon. And they usually ramp up their narcissism as they get closer to death. I tell myself not to be too hard on myself. I am not from the younger generation where all the kids have fast communication with home computers, email, YouTube videos, websites, Amazon book reviews, etc. If I had all this information on narcissism and abuse when I was a young teen, I know that I would have made different life choices. We all would have. We all would have, and that's the problem with this. We don't figure this out late in life. You gotta understand, I would say 95% of the world has no idea what this is, what narcissism is. They deal with it, but they're unable to put their finger on it, explain it, even though you've gone through it. How long has it taken you, because you're my age, so you're in your 40s as well, how long has it taken you in your life to even be able to explain this coherently so somebody you're explaining it to understands it? Okay? That's why it's so destructive and damaging, because there's been no way to explain it up until a few years ago. My problem was ignorance and listening to others who did not understand the complexity of a dysfunctional family. Exactly. I would like to say to them, yes, it was really that bad. The only true freedom from abuse is when your abuser dies, almost like a form of slavery. Thanks for reading. Sorry this is long. Please continue your good work. Blessings to you and your family. And that's something else I talk to. When you're dealing with people who are not raised by narcissists, who are raised in a loving family, they can't conceptualize this. They don't understand this because they understand what family and parental love is about. So they can't even, they're always going to think, oh, well, your mother loves you. You know how parents are. Our parents drive you crazy. No, yeah, they do. Everybody's parents probably does drive them crazy to a certain extent. But they don't have the concept of when your parents are actively trying to destroy you and control you and keep you down as a slave. They don't get it. They don't get it. And that's what's something we need to start telling these people that we're friends with or who don't get it. You know, not people who actively hang out with them. Like people you know who don't know them but still don't understand it. You just need to say, look, unless you've lived it, you'll never understand it. And, you know, I'm sorry, I wish I could make you understand, but I truly have monstrous parents that, you know, are just out to destroy me. Now, I know there's no way for you to believe that in the back of your head, that you think that the parents just aren't like that, but you can't understand it because you haven't lived it, because you've had loving parents, you've had a loving family. So you can't actually believe that this is the way it is, but it is. That doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life. What that means is you probably have to limit what you tell them about your family, about your issues. You have to know, you have to talk about these things with the people who have lived it and understand it. That doesn't mean you have to have every friend has to have been abused by narcissists. So as long as those friends don't have anything to do with your abuser, that's fine. You don't have to sit there, okay, on the witness stand to giving testimony to convince every single person this is how it is in my life. This is my life. This is my parents. If these people don't know you're narcissist, there's no reason to get that in depth, because you're only going to frustrate yourself, drive yourself crazy, and think, oh well, she just doesn't believe me. This is just another example of somebody not believing me. Doesn't matter. Okay, you don't have to have every single person in your life understand it. You don't have to go this in depth with every single person in your life, because you will drive yourself crazy, because they have no way of understanding what you've been through. So I hope that helps. And you're right how you started this. You probably could have been my sister because we've dealt with very, very similar type of narcissism, very similar type of narcissistic abuse. You know, like when I had my house, my parents were insisting on keys to it. I wouldn't give them to them because I knew because they just want that control. Okay. And again, the fact that your parents started doing rental properties and were landlords, they were just actively looking to control everybody they possibly could in their lives. So I would just let this bitch die. I would just let this bitch die, not call her, because here's what's going to happen. If you remain in contact with her, waiting for that will, I guarantee you this bitch has already cut you out of this will. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And if you were to maintain a relationship, I would tell her, if you want me to maintain a relationship, I want to see a copy of your will, and I want to make sure I'm the fucking executor of your will. That way, you can't make any goddamn changes on it without me knowing, period. If she refuses to do that, you know you've already been cut out. And she's only keeping you hanging on so she can get her way until she dies, and then she will fuck you over when she's dead from the grave. That's what you got to do, because that, I think, is probably what's going to happen. So thank you for your story. I hope it helps. I hope this video helps. Thank you very much for your contribution. I appreciate it even more because it was a very small donation, and that just goes to show I know you're unemployed. I know how tough that is. So the fact that you were able to that you gave anything and sacrificed anything, I really do appreciate it. And it was very nice of you. And for everyone else, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, can help any other words of advice for this woman, please comment. And again, if you enjoy this channel, and if you're getting something out of this channel, please consider contributing to the GoFundMe link in the description box. As you see by this video, any donation, if you want your story put out, I will immediately make your video. You go right to the top of the list, first opportunity I get. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you all again shortly. Take care. Bye.